Little girl calls 911 and says, "It was Daddy and his friend." The truth leaves everyone in tears. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The emergency dispatcher, Vanessa Williams, had answered thousands of calls in her 15 years at the Pinewood County 911 Center. Most were predictable: heart attacks, car accidents, fallen trees. But the call that came in at 2:17 p.m. on that Tuesday afternoon in September made her breath catch. 911. What's your emergency? Vanessa's voice was calm, practiced. There was silence for 3 seconds. Then came a small voice, wavering between a whisper and a sob. It was Daddy and his friend. "Please help me." Vanessa straightened in her chair, fingers poised over the keyboard. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Can you tell me your name?" "My name is Lily. I'm 8. The child's voice quivered. "My tummy really hurts. It's big and it's getting bigger." In the background, Vanessa could hear a television playing cartoons softly. No adult voices, no commotion. "Lily, where are your parents right now?" "Mommy's sleeping 'cause her body is fighting her again. Daddy's at work." A small whimper followed. "I think what they gave me made me sick." Vanessa signaled to her supervisor while keeping her voice steady. "What do you mean by that, Lily? What did Daddy and his friend give you?" "Food and water. But it was after they came that my tummy started to hurt real bad." The girl's breathing quickened. "And now it's all big, and nobody will take me to the doctor." As Vanessa dispatched Officer James Parker to the address she'd traced from the call, she kept Lily talking. "Can you go look out your window, sweetie? A police officer is coming to help you. His name is Officer Parker. He's very nice." Through the phone, Vanessa heard shuffling, then a small gasp. "The police car is here. Will he make my tummy better?" "He's going to help you, Lily. Can you go to the door when he knocks? Stay on the phone with me." Officer Parker approached the modest single-story home on Maple Street. Paint peeled from the trim, and the small yard needed attention. But it was the flowers planted in colorful buckets by the steps that caught his eye. Someone had tried to bring beauty to this struggling home. When Lily opened the door, Parker's training couldn't prevent the concern that registered briefly in his eyes. The girl was small for 8, with blonde hair pulled into uneven pigtails and eyes too large for her thin face. But it was her distended abdomen, visible even under her faded blue t-shirt, that alarmed him. "Hi, Lily. I'm Officer Parker." He knelt to her level. "Can you show me what's bothering you?" Lily lifted her shirt just enough to reveal her swollen belly, the skin stretched tight. "It was Daddy and his friend," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "They did this to me." As Officer Parker called for an ambulance, neither he nor Lily noticed the elderly neighbor watching through lace curtains across the street, already reaching for her phone to spread the word that would soon divide their small town. Officer Parker sat beside Lily on the worn floral couch in the living room. The home told a story of struggle: bills stacked on the coffee table, empty medicine bottles lined up on the kitchen counter, and dishes waiting to be washed. But there were also signs of love: children's drawings taped to the refrigerator, a hand-knitted blanket draped over the couch, and family photos displaying genuine smiles. "Lily, can you tell me more about what happened?" Officer Parker asked gently, notebook in hand but attention fully on the child. Lily hugged her teddy bear tighter. "My tummy started hurting real bad 2 weeks ago. At first it was just a little bit, but then it got worse and worse." She pointed to her abdomen. "Now it's all big and it hurts all the time." "Did you tell your parents?" Lily nodded, eyes downcast. "I told Daddy. I told him lots of times. He said we'll go to the doctor tomorrow, but tomorrow never came." Her voice trembled. "He was always too busy or too tired." Officer Parker made notes. "And what about your mom?" "Mommy has special days when her body fights against her. That's what Daddy calls it. She has to stay in bed a lot." Lily's small fingers fidgeted with her teddy bear's ear. "She takes lots of medicine, but it doesn't always help." The officer nodded sympathetically. "And you mentioned Daddy's friend. Can you tell me about him?" Lily's face scrunched in concentration. "Mr. Ray, he comes over sometimes. He brought us groceries last week. After I ate the sandwich he made me, my tummy got really bad. The paramedics arrived then, introducing themselves as Tina and Marcus. Tina had a gentle smile that immediately put Lily at ease. "Hi there, sweetheart," Tina said, kneeling beside Lily. "I hear your tummy's not feeling too good. Mind if I take a look?" As Tina examined Lily, Marcus quietly conferred with Officer Parker. "Any sign of the parents?" Marcus asked. "Not yet. Mother's apparently bedridden with some kind of chronic condition. Father's at work. I've got officers trying to locate both," Parker replied. "The girl seems to think her condition is somehow connected to her stepfather and his friend." Marcus raised an eyebrow but kept his voice professional. "We'll get her to Pinewood Memorial right away. Doctor, Eleanor Reynolds is on call. She specializes in pediatrics." As they prepared to transport Lily to the ambulance, she suddenly grabbed Officer Parker's hand. "What about Mommy? She'll be scared if she wakes up and I'm gone." "I'll leave a note for her, and we'll find her right away to tell her where you are," Parker assured her. "Is there anything special you want me to tell her?" Lily thought for a moment. "Tell her not to worry. And tell her—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Tell her it wasn't her fault." As the ambulance pulled away, Officer Parker stood on the porch, those last words echoing in his mind. He turned back to the house, determined to find answers. In the small kitchen, he found a calendar with multiple work schedules penciled in. Michael, 7 a.m., 3 p.m. gas station, 4 p.m., 10 p.m. warehouse, appeared on most days. A photo on the refrigerator showed a tired-looking man with his arm around Lily, and a pale woman who must be Sarah, Lily's mother. Parker was about to check the bedrooms when his radio crackled. "Officer Parker, we've located Michael Bennett at the Quick Stop on Main, and you should know. Word's already spreading around town about a child calling 911 about her father." The officer sighed. In small towns like Pinewood, news traveled faster than police cruisers, and often with far less accuracy. Michael Bennett was restocking the cooler at Quick Stop when he saw the police car pull into the parking lot. His first thought was of Sarah. Had something happened to her? His heart pounded as Officer Parker approached him. "Mr. Bennett, I need to speak with you about your daughter, Lily." The color drained from Michael's face. "Lily? What's wrong with Lily?" "She called 911 earlier today. She's been taken to Pinewood Memorial Hospital with significant abdominal distension." Michael's hands began to shake. "Hospital? But she was fine when I left this morning. Just a little stomach ache. She's had it on and off for a couple weeks, but—" His voice trailed off as guilt washed over his features. "I kept telling her we'd go to the doctor, but with Sarah's medical bills and my 2 jobs, I just—" He suddenly registered something else the officer had said. "Wait, she called 911 herself. What did she say?" Officer Parker maintained a neutral expression. "She expressed concern that something she was given by you and your friend might have made her sick." Michael's eyes widened. "What? That's crazy. I would never—" "Ray just brought us some groceries last week because he knew we were struggling. He even made Lily her favorite sandwich." "Ray would be Raymond Cooper," Officer Parker clarified. "Yes, he works at the food mart. He's been helping us out since Sarah got worse." Michael rubbed his forehead anxiously. "Officer, I need to get to the hospital." "Jerry," he called to his manager. "Family emergency, I have to go." As they drove to the hospital, Michael stared out the window, his voice barely audible. "I knew she wasn't feeling well. I just thought it was a bug or something. There's always something going around at school." He looked at Parker with red-rimmed eyes. "What kind of father am I? Too busy working to notice how sick my own child is." "When did Lily's symptoms start?" Parker asked. "About 2 weeks ago. Just complained about her tummy hurting. Then a few days ago I noticed her belly looked swollen, but I had double shifts all week." Michael's voice broke. "Sarah's been so sick lately. Her lupus flared up bad this month. Most days she can barely get out of bed." Parker's next question was interrupted by the radio. "Officer Parker, be advised. Sarah Bennett has been located and is en route to the hospital." "Oh, thank God," Michael breathed. "Is she okay?" "Your neighbor, Mrs. Winters, found her. She's weak but conscious." As they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Michael spotted an ambulance. Paramedics were helping a frail woman onto a wheelchair. Sarah. Sarah! Michael rushed to her side. Michael, where's Lily? Mrs. Winters said police took her. Sarah's voice was thin with fear. She's inside, ma'am, Officer Parker explained. The doctors are examining her now. In the pediatric ward, they found Dr. Eleanor Reynolds waiting for them. Her kind face held concern as she introduced herself. Lily is stable, but I'm troubled by the extent of her abdominal distension. We're running tests now to determine the cause. Can we see her? Sarah asked, tears streaming down her hollow cheeks. Of course, but I should warn you. A social worker, Emma Fletcher, is with her now. Standard procedure when a child calls 911 with concerns about caregivers. Michael stiffened. Doctor, we would never hurt Lily. We love her more than anything. Dr. Reynolds nodded. I understand, but we need to follow protocol and determine what's causing her condition. As they entered Lily's room, they saw her lying in a hospital bed that made her look even smaller. A woman in a gray blazer sat beside her, clipboard in hand. Mommy! Daddy! Lily cried, reaching for them. As the family embraced, tears flowing freely, Emma Fletcher watched with an unreadable expression. Outside the room, Officer Parker conferred with the doctor. What do you think is wrong with her? He asked quietly. Dr. Reynolds sighed. Too early to say for certain. But I'm concerned this isn't a simple case of food poisoning or a virus. Something has been affecting this child for weeks. Emma Fletcher had been a social worker for 12 years, and she prided herself on keeping an open mind. As she observed the Bennett family's tearful reunion, she noted the genuine concern in Michael's eyes, and the protective way Sarah held her daughter despite her own obvious weakness. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, I'm Emma Fletcher from Child Protective Services, she said once the initial emotions had settled. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Lily's home environment and medical history. Sarah wiped her tears, her hands trembling slightly. Of course, anything that will help Lily. Michael stood protectively beside the hospital bed. We haven't done anything wrong. We love our daughter. Emma nodded calmly. I understand this is difficult. My job is to ensure Lily's well-being and to help your family access any resources you might need. She turned to Lily with a gentle smile. Sweetheart, would you mind if I talk to your parents in the hallway for a minute? Nurse Jessica will stay with you. Once outside, Emma's expression remained professional but kind. Lily mentioned concerns about something her daddy and his friend gave her. Can you explain what she might be referring to? Michael ran a hand through his hair. It must be Raymond Cooper. He brought us groceries last week when our refrigerator was nearly empty. He made Lily a sandwich. His voice cracked. I work 2 jobs trying to keep up with Sarah's medical bills. Ray's been helping us out. Sarah touched his arm. Michael has been amazing, taking care of both of us. My lupus has been particularly bad this month. Emma made notes. Has Lily had access to medical care for her stomach issues? The parents exchanged a look of shame. We don't have good insurance, Sarah admitted. The co-pays are so high, and after my last hospitalization, she trailed off. I kept telling her we'd go to the doctor, Michael added, his voice hollow. But I thought it was just a stomach bug. Kids get those all the time, right? I never imagined. He couldn't finish the sentence. Inside the room, Lily was telling Nurse Jessica about her stuffed animals at home, when Dr. Reynolds returned with a tablet in hand. We have some preliminary test results, she told the gathered adults. Lily's blood work shows signs of infection and inflammation. We'll need to run more specific tests, including an ultrasound of her abdomen. Infection? Sarah repeated anxiously. What kind of infection? That's what we need to determine, Dr. Reynolds explained. It could be several things. I'd also like to know more about your home conditions, your water source, food preparation areas, that sort of thing. Michael stiffened. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Mr. Bennett. I'm trying to identify potential sources of infection to treat your daughter properly. Officer Parker, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. With your permission, I'd like to take a look at your home. It might help the doctors identify the cause faster. Before Michael could respond, his phone rang. It was his second job calling to ask why he hadn't shown up for his shift. "I can't come in today," he said, his voice strained. "My daughter's in the hospital." After listening for a moment, his face fell. "But I need this job. Please, I can make up the hours." "Hello?" He stared at the phone. He hung up. "I think he just fired me." Sarah reached for his hand as tears filled her eyes. "What are we going to do now?" Emma exchanged glances with Officer Parker. "Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Bennett, there are emergency assistance programs that might help your family during this crisis. Let me make some calls." As the adults spoke in hushed tones, Lily watched from her bed, her eyes wide with worry. She hadn't meant to cause so much trouble by calling 911. She just wanted her tummy to stop hurting. Outside the hospital room, a nurse approached Dr. Reynolds with another set of test results. The doctor's brow furrowed as she read the paper. "Get Ray Cooper on the phone," she told Officer Parker quietly. "And we need to test their home water supply immediately." The morning sun cast long shadows across Pinewood as Raymond Cooper sorted through produce at the food mart. At 52, Ray had the weathered hands of someone who'd worked hard his entire life. A widower for 5 years now, he'd found purpose in helping others, especially the Bennett family, who reminded him of his own struggles raising his daughter alone after his wife's passing. When his manager tapped his shoulder, Ray turned to find Officer Parker waiting by the storefront. "Raymond Cooper, I need to speak with you about the Bennett family." Ray's expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Is everything okay? Did something happen to Sarah?" "It's about Lily. She's in the hospital." The color drained from Ray's face. "Hospital? What happened?" "She's suffering from an acute illness. She mentioned you brought food to their home recently?" Ray nodded quickly. "Last Tuesday. Michael's been working himself to the bone in Sarah's condition. I just wanted to help." His eyes widened suddenly. "Wait, you don't think We're exploring all possibilities," Officer Parker said evenly. "The doctors need to know exactly what Lily ate recently." Ray rubbed his forehead. "I brought them groceries, basics mostly. Bread, peanut butter, some fruit that was about to be marked down. Oh, and a couple of those pre-made meals from our deli section." "Did you prepare any food for Lily directly?" "Just a sandwich, peanut butter and banana. It was her favorite." Ray's voice caught. "Officer, I would never do anything to harm that child. We also need to know about their home. Have you been inside recently?" Ray hesitated. "Yes, a couple times. Michael asked me to look at their kitchen sink. It's been backing up and he can't afford a plumber." His expression darkened. "That place isn't right for a family. The landlord, Jenkins, he never fixes anything. I've seen water stains on the ceiling and there's a funny smell in the bathroom." Officer Parker made notes. "Would you be willing to come to the hospital? The doctors may have questions." At Pinewood Memorial, Emma Fletcher sat with Lily while her parents spoke with Dr. Reynolds in the hallway. The girl was coloring a picture of a house surrounded by flowers. "That's beautiful, Lily," Emma commented. "Is that your home?" Lily shook her head. "No, it's the home I wish we had, with a garden for Mommy and a big kitchen so Daddy doesn't have to work so much." Emma's heart tightened. "Do you like your home now?" "It's okay." Lily shrugged. "But the water tastes funny, and sometimes there are bugs under the sink. Daddy tries to fix things, but he's always so tired." Emma made a mental note. "And tell me about Mr. Ray, he's Daddy's friend?" Lily nodded. "He brings us food sometimes. He makes funny voices when he reads me stories." Her face clouded. "But after he made me that sandwich, my tummy got really bad." She looked up at Emma with worried eyes. "Is that why everyone's asking about him? Did I get him in trouble?" Before Emma could answer, Dr. Reynolds entered with a serious expression. "We have the ultrasound results." Dr. A. Reynolds held the ultrasound images in her hands as she faced Michael and Sarah. Her expression was serious but not alarming. "We've found significant inflammation in Lily's intestinal tract," she explained, pointing to areas on the scan. "There's also evidence of what might be parasitic infection." "Parasites," Sarah gasped, leaning against Michael for support. How could she get parasites? There are several possibilities, Dr. Reynolds replied. Contaminated water or food are the most common sources. We're running more specific tests to identify exactly what we're dealing with. Michael's face paled. Our apartment, the plumbing has been bad for months. The landlord keeps promising to fix it. His voice dropped to a whisper. I should have pushed harder. I should have done more. Dr. Reynolds placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Mr. Bennett, try not to blame yourself. Let's focus on getting Lily better. Just then, Officer Parker arrived with Ray Cooper. Sarah immediately rose to greet him. Ray, thank you for coming. Ray looked anxiously toward Lily's room. How is she? They think it might be parasites, Michael explained, his voice strained. From bad water or food. Ray's eyes widened. The sink, I told you that backup wasn't right. Jenkins needs to be reported to the housing authority. As they spoke, Emma emerged from Lily's room, followed by a nurse who was bringing Lily a small cup of medicine. Mr. Cooper, Emma said, extending her hand. I'm Emma Fletcher from Child Protective Services. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your recent visits to the Bennett home. Ray nodded, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. Of course, anything to help Lily. In a quiet corner of the waiting area, Emma interviewed Ray while Officer Parker listened. Lily mentioned that her symptoms worsened after eating a sandwich you made her, Emma stated, her tone neutral. Ray nodded earnestly. Peanut butter and banana. I brought the food from the store where I work. Everything was fresh, I swear. And the water you used? Ray hesitated. From their tap. But now that you mention it, it did look a bit cloudy. I thought maybe it was just air in the pipes. Meanwhile, Dr. Reynolds was explaining the treatment plan to Lily's parents. We'll start her on anti-parasitic medication immediately. She'll need to stay in the hospital for at least a few days for monitoring and to ensure she's properly hydrated. Sarah wrung her hands. The costs, we already can't afford. Let's not worry about that right now, Dr. Reynolds interrupted gently. There are programs that can help. Emma can assist you with the applications. Down the hall, Lily was telling the nurse about her favorite cartoon when a tall man in an expensive suit entered the pediatric ward, looking displeased. It was Lawrence Jenkins, the Bennett's landlord. Where's Officer Parker? He demanded at the nurse's station. I understand he's been making inquiries about my property on Maple Street. As the landlord's voice echoed through the hall, other patients and visitors turned to stare. Officer Parker excused himself from Ray's interview and approached Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, let's discuss this somewhere private. Jenkins folded his arms. There's nothing to discuss. My properties meet all legal requirements. Then you won't mind if the health department takes a look, Parker replied evenly. As the two men walked away, Ray watched with growing anger. He'd seen firsthand the conditions the Bennetts were living in, and he knew Jenkins was notorious for neglecting repairs. Inside her room, Lily could hear the raised voices. She clutched her stuffed bear tighter, wondering if this was all her fault. All she'd wanted was for someone to help make her tummy feel better. Now everyone seemed upset, and she didn't understand why. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds of Lily's hospital room, casting warm patterns across her bed. She'd slept fitfully, the medication making her drowsy but uncomfortable. Sarah had spent the night in the chair beside her, her own pain forgotten in her concern for her daughter. Michael entered with 2 paper cups of coffee, dark circles under his eyes. He'd spent hours at the police station answering questions about their living conditions, and then returned to their apartment to collect some of Lily's things. How's our brave girl this morning? He asked, setting the coffee down and gently brushing Lily's hair from her forehead. The medicine tastes yucky, Lily said, making a face. But Nurse Jessica says it's fighting the bad bugs in my tummy. Dr. Reynolds arrived with Emma Fletcher and a new face, a health inspector named Thomas Grant. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, Dr. Reynolds began. We've confirmed that Lily has a parasitic infection caused by a type of roundworm. It's typically contracted through contaminated water or soil. I visited your apartment this morning, Mr. Grant said, his expression serious. I found significant black mold in the bathroom walls and evidence of sewage backup contaminating your water supply. Sarah covered her mouth. Oh God, we've all been drinking that water. Which explains why Lily's symptoms became so severe after the sandwich, Dr. Reynolds added. The bread would have absorbed the contaminated water, creating a higher concentration of parasites. We've ordered Mr. Jenkins to remedy these issues immediately, Mr. Grant continued. And the building has been temporarily condemned until repairs are made. Michael's face fell. Condemned. But where will we go? We can barely afford rent as it is. Emma stepped forward. That's where I can help. There's an emergency housing program for families in crisis. We can get you temporary accommodation while you look for something permanent. As they discussed the options, a commotion in the hallway drew their attention. Ray Cooper had arrived with several of his Food Mart co-workers, all carrying bags. Sorry to interrupt, Ray said sheepishly, but word got around about what happened and, well, we wanted to help. He began unpacking the bags, clean clothes for Lily, toiletries, some simple toys, and gift cards for local restaurants. The store manager donated these, Ray explained, and we all pitched in for a hotel room if you need it. Just until you find something better. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. Ray, I don't know what to say. Lily sat up in bed, her eyes wide. Does this mean it wasn't the sandwich that made me sick? It wasn't Mr. Ray's fault? Dr. Reynolds sat on the edge of Lily's bed. No, sweetheart. The sandwich wasn't the problem. It was the water in your home that had dangerous germs in it. But the medicine is working and you'll feel better soon. Then I didn't get Mr. Ray in trouble? Lily asked anxiously. Not at all, Officer Parker assured her from the doorway. In fact, Mr. Ray helped us figure out what was making you sick. Relief washed over Lily's face. Good, because he makes the best peanut butter sandwiches. The adults laughed, the tension finally breaking. Outside in the hallway, Officer Parker updated Emma on the situation with Jenkins. He's being cited for multiple code violations. Turns out the Bennetts weren't his only tenants living in dangerous conditions. Will there be criminal charges? Emma asked quietly. The DA is reviewing the case, Parker replied. But regardless, that family needs a safe place to live. As they spoke, Mrs. Wilson, Lily's teacher, arrived with a handmade card signed by all of Lily's classmates. Behind her came several other community members, each bringing something to help. Michael watched from Lily's doorway, overwhelmed by the response. For years he'd carried the weight of his family's struggles alone, too proud to ask for help. Now, seeing his community rally around them, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. 3 days later, Lily sat up in her hospital bed, color returning to her cheeks. The swelling in her abdomen had begun to subside, and Dr. Reynolds was pleased with her progress. A small collection of stuffed animals, books, and drawings from classmates had accumulated on the windowsill, reminders that she was not forgotten. How are you feeling today, Lily? Dr. Reynolds asked during morning rounds. Better, Lily replied, hugging her favorite teddy bear. My tummy doesn't hurt as much, but I'm tired of being in bed all day. Well, I have good news. If your tests look good tomorrow, you might be able to go home. Lily's smile faded. But we don't have a home anymore, do we? Dr. Reynolds exchanged a glance with Sarah, who sat knitting in the corner chair, a hobby she'd returned to after years, brought by the hours of hospital waiting. Your mom and dad have been working very hard on that, Dr. Reynolds said gently. Why don't you tell her, Mrs. Bennett? Sarah set down her knitting and moved to Lily's bedside. We have a place to stay, sweetheart. It's a small apartment above Mrs. Wilson's garage. You remember your teacher? She's letting us use it until we find something permanent. Will my bed fit and all my books? Lily asked, her forehead creased with worry. We'll make it work, Sarah promised. And guess what? It has a little garden where you can help me plant flowers. Michael arrived then, wearing a clean shirt and looking more rested than he had in days. Emma Fletcher accompanied him, carrying a folder of documents. Guess who just got a new job? Michael announced, his smile reaching his eyes for the first time in weeks. You did? Lily clapped her hands. Ray put in a good word for me at Food Mart. I start next week as an assistant manager. One job, better hours, and... He looked at Sarah meaningfully. Health insurance for all of us. Emma opened her folder. And I've got more good news. You've been approved for emergency medical assistance. It will cover most of Lily's hospital bills and help with Sarah's treatments for the next 6 months. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to thank you. There's something else, Michael said, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed. Remember how you called 911 because you thought Daddy and his friend made you sick? Lily nodded solemnly. Well, in a way, your call helped a lot of people. The health inspectors checked all of Mr. Jenkins's buildings, and they found that many families were living with bad water and other dangerous conditions. Like us? Lily asked. Yes, like us. But because you were brave enough to call for help, those families are getting help too. Outside the hospital room, Officer Parker stood with Ray, watching the family through the window. Jenkins is facing serious charges, Parker said quietly. Housing violations, negligence, even fraud for collecting rent on condemned properties. Ray shook his head. I should have reported him years ago. I knew that place wasn't right. You did what you could, Parker reassured him. You brought them food, tried to fix things. Not everyone would do that much. In the hospital cafeteria, a community meeting was underway. Mrs. Wilson, the church pastor, the Food Mart manager, and several neighbors had gathered to discuss more permanent solutions for the Bennett family and the other displaced tenants. The church has a vacant parsonage, Pastor Thomas suggested. It needs work, but it could house 2 families temporarily. Food Mart can donate groceries weekly, the store manager added. And my husband's construction company could help with repairs, offered a woman named Carol, maybe at a discount. As they brainstormed, Emma joined them, adding her professional expertise to their compassion. Together, they began to weave a safety net that had been missing in Pinewood for too long. Back in Lily's room, Dr. Reynolds checked the latest test results with satisfaction. The treatment is working beautifully. Lily's a fighter. Just like her mother, Michael said, squeezing Sarah's hand. Lily looked between her parents, then at the community gathering visible through the cafeteria windows across the courtyard. Are all those people there because of me? She asked in wonder. They're there because in Pinewood we take care of each other, Sarah explained. We just forgot that for a while. 1 week later, the Bennett family stood in the doorway of their temporary new home above Mrs. Wilson's garage. The space was small but clean, with freshly painted walls and windows that welcomed the afternoon sunlight. Someone had placed a vase of wildflowers on the kitchenette table and hung a handmade Welcome Home banner across the living room. It's like a little nest, Sarah remarked, taking in their surroundings with grateful eyes. Lily explored the space with cautious excitement, still moving carefully as her body continued to heal. Look, Mommy, I have a window seat, she called from the small bedroom she would occupy. Michael set down the few boxes they had managed to salvage from their condemned apartment. Most of their belongings had been damaged by mold or deemed unsafe to keep. Starting over felt overwhelming but also strangely freeing. Mrs. Wilson appeared at the door with a casserole dish. Dinner's ready whenever you are. No need to cook on your first night. Nancy, you've done so much already, Sarah began. Nonsense, Mrs. Wilson interrupted. You would do the same for me. She looked at Lily with a teacher's proud smile. How's my brave student feeling today? Dr. Reynolds says I'm getting better every day, Lily announced. I can start school again next week if I keep taking my medicine. Your desk is waiting for you, Mrs. Wilson assured her, and the class can't wait to see you. After Mrs. Wilson left, the family began the process of settling in. As Michael unpacked in the kitchen, he found a letter tucked between dishes they didn't recognize. It was from Ray. Sarah, Lily, come see this, he called. The family gathered around the table as Michael read aloud, Dear Bennett family, these dishes belong to my late wife, Catherine. She always said good food tastes better on pretty plates. I've kept them packed away for years, waiting for the right moment to pass them on. I can't think of a more deserving family. There's more to tell you, but it can wait until you're settled. Just know that sometimes life's hardest moments lead us to where we're supposed to be. Your friend, Ray. What do you think he means about having more to tell us? Sarah wondered. Michael shook his head. No idea, but Ray's been full of surprises lately. The next morning, Emma Fletcher arrived with more news. The Bennetts invited her in for coffee, served in Ray's delicate blue china cups. "I have updates about Jenkins," Emma began. "He's agreed to a settlement with all affected tenants. It won't be a fortune, but it should help you with a deposit on a new place when you're ready." "That's unexpected," Michael said. "I thought he'd fight it." "Apparently your situation wasn't the only violation discovered," Emma explained. "The health department found similar issues in all 6 of his properties. He's facing significant fines and possible criminal charges." As they discussed the implications, a knock at the door revealed Ray, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but there's something I need to show you all, if you're feeling up to a short drive." The family exchanged curious glances. "I promise it's worth it," Ray added. 30 minutes later, Ray's pickup truck turned onto Maple Lane, a quiet street lined with modest homes and neat gardens. He parked in front of a small white house with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. "Whose house is this?" Lily asked, admiring the tire swing hanging from a large oak tree in the front yard. Ray took a deep breath. "It was mine and Catherine's. We raised our daughter here before Catherine passed." He turned to face the family. "But now, it's just sitting empty since I moved to the apartment downtown." Michael's brow furrowed. "Ray, what are you saying?" "I'm saying," Ray replied, pulling a key from his pocket, "that this house needs a family, and I know a family that needs a house." Sarah gasped. "Ray, we couldn't possibly—" "Just come look," Ray interrupted gently, "before you decide." As they walked up the path to the porch, Lily spotted something that made her stop in her tracks. Along the edge of the garden were colorful buckets filled with flowers, just like the ones she had drawn in her hospital picture of her dream home. The inside of Ray's house felt like stepping into a storybook. Sunlight streamed through lace curtains, casting dappled patterns across hardwood floors. Family photos lined the walls, Ray with a smiling woman who must have been Catherine, and a young girl growing up through the frames. "This is Jessica, my daughter," Ray explained, noticing Lily's interest in the photos. "She lives in California now, with her husband and 2 boys. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, running her hand along a well-worn countertop in the kitchen. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, Ray continued. "The back garden needs some tending, but the soil's good. Catherine grew the best tomatoes in Pinewood right out there." Michael stood in the center of the living room, his expression a mixture of awe and discomfort. "Ray, we appreciate this more than you know, but we could never afford a place like this." Ray smiled. "I'm not selling it to you, Michael. I'm offering it as a rental, long-term. The amount Jenkins is paying in the settlement would cover 2 years of modest rent. By then, you'll be established at Food Mart, and Sarah's medical assistance will have kicked in." "But don't you need the income from selling it?" Sarah asked. "This house must be worth a lot." Ray's eyes grew distant. "What I need is to know this house has a family in it again. Jessica wants me to move to California, but I'm not ready. If you're here taking care of the place, I can visit Catherine's garden and know her home is filled with love." Emma, who had followed in her car, stood quietly in the doorway. "It's an incredible offer," she said. "And it would provide the stability Lily needs." Lily had wandered to a window seat overlooking the garden. "Mommy, look, there's a little patch just like you wanted for flowers." Sarah joined her daughter, emotion catching in her throat as she saw the small, well-designed garden area. "Ray, this is too much." "No," Ray said firmly. "It's exactly enough. You'd actually be helping me. I've been paying property taxes on an empty house for years." Michael extended his hand. "We accept on one condition. You visit often and help me learn how to take care of this place properly." Ray's weathered face broke into a smile as he shook Michael's hand. "Deal." That evening, as Emma helped the Bennetts finalize paperwork for the rental agreement, Officer Parker stopped by with news. The health department's report is official. The water in Jenkins' buildings was contaminated with multiple parasites and bacteria. At least 12 other children in those buildings had similar symptoms to Lily's, though less severe. "Those poor families," Sarah murmured. "The good news is they're all getting treatment now," Parker continued. And the city council held an emergency meeting. They've approved funding for temporary housing and medical screening for everyone affected. All because one brave little girl called for help, Emma added, smiling at Lily. Lily, who had been arranging her few salvaged books on a shelf, turned with a serious expression. I was scared to call. I thought I'd get in trouble. That's what's so brave about it, Officer Parker said. Being scared but doing the right thing anyway. As the adults continued talking, Lily slipped away to explore the backyard. The evening sun cast a golden glow over the garden, where wildflowers nodded in the gentle breeze. A small stone bench sat beneath an apple tree, and Lily perched there, taking it all in. She didn't notice Ray watching her from the kitchen window, or the tear that slid down his weathered cheek. Catherine would have loved her, he said softly to himself. She always said this house was meant for a child's laughter. Inside, Michael and Sarah sat at the kitchen table, still overwhelmed by the day's events. Do you think we can really start over? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael reached for her hand. I think we already have. In the garden, Lily made a silent promise to the flowers, the house, and to Ray. She would fill this place with all the love and laughter it deserved. 2 months passed, and autumn painted Maple Lane in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. The Bennett family had settled into a rhythm in Ray's house, which now held touches of their own personalities. Sarah's knitting basket by the fireplace, Michael's collection of model cars on a shelf, and Lily's drawings taped to the refrigerator. On this particular Saturday morning, Lily sat at the kitchen table, her homework spread before her. Her health had improved dramatically, though Dr. Reynolds still monitored her progress with monthly checkups. Daddy, how do you spell community? She asked, pencil poised over paper. Michael, who was fixing a loose cabinet hinge, spelled it out for her. What are you working on, sweetheart? Mrs. Wilson asked us to write about heroes in our community, Lily explained. I'm writing about Mr. Ray. Sarah smiled as she kneaded dough for bread, a skill Ray's wife had recorded in a handwritten cookbook that now sat proudly on their kitchen shelf. That's a wonderful choice. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ray stood on the porch holding a large cardboard box. Morning, Bennetts. Found these in my storage unit. Thought they might be useful. Inside the box were winter clothes, coats, hats, and scarves that had belonged to his family. Jessica's kids are too big for these now. And with winter coming, Lily immediately tried on a red wool hat. It's perfect. Thank you, Mr. Ray. As they sorted through the clothes, Ray noticed Lily's homework. Heroes in our community, huh? Who'd you pick? Lily suddenly became shy. It's a surprise, Ray chuckled. Well, I bet Officer Parker made the list. He's been checking in on all the families from Jenkins buildings. Speaking of which, Michael said, did you hear the news? Jenkins pleaded guilty to all charges. The judge ordered him to pay for complete remediation of all his properties. About time, Ray nodded. Those places need to be torn down and rebuilt properly. As they talked, the phone rang. Sarah answered, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. It's Emma, she told the others, covering the receiver. She wants to know if we can come to the community center. There's an emergency meeting about the Jenkins situation. At the Pinewood Community Center, dozens of families gathered in the main hall. Emma stood at the front with Officer Parker and Mayor Thompson, their faces grave. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, the mayor began. We've received troubling news. Despite the court order, Lawrence Jenkins has fled the state. His properties, including the buildings many of you lived in, are now in legal limbo. A murmur of distress rippled through the crowd. What does this mean for the settlement money? Someone called out. And the medical coverage for our children? Added another voice. Emma stepped forward. The settlement funds that were already in escrow are secure, but the long-term remediation of the properties is now uncertain. Lily tugged at her mother's sleeve. What's happening? Are we going to lose our new home? No, sweetheart, Sarah assured her. Our arrangement with Ray is separate from all this. As the meeting continued, tensions rose. Some families were still in temporary housing, waiting for Jenkins's buildings to be repaired. Others worried about ongoing medical issues that required financial support. Michael, who had been quietly listening, finally stood. "Excuse me," he called, his voice steady. "I think we're looking at this all wrong." The room quieted as he continued. "Jenkins leaving doesn't change what we've already accomplished together. Look around this room. 2 months ago, most of us were strangers. Now we're a community. We helped each other find housing, shared resources, even started a free clinic day at the hospital." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd. Instead of waiting for Jenkins or the courts, what if we took matters into our own hands? I work at Food Mart now. We have access to donations, volunteers. Ray here has construction experience. Mrs. Wilson knows every teacher in the district who might help. Officer Parker stepped forward. "Michael's right. The city can seize abandoned properties after a certain period. If we organize now, we could influence what happens to those buildings. Like turning them into affordable housing, someone suggested. Or a community center with healthcare services," added Dr. Reynolds, who had been sitting quietly in the back. As ideas began to flow, Lily watched in amazement. The room that had been filled with fear minutes ago now buzzed with possibility. She opened her notebook and began to write furiously, adding to her essay about community heroes. Because now she realized there wasn't just one hero in her story. There were dozens, and they were all around her. Winter arrived in Pinewood with a gentle first snow that transformed Maple Lane into a postcard scene. Christmas was just 2 weeks away, and the Bennett home glowed with warm light from within. In the living room, Michael and Lily decorated a modest tree while Sarah strung popcorn garlands, her hands steadier than they had been in months. "Do you think Santa will find us at our new address?" Lily asked, carefully hanging a paper angel she had made at school. Michael chuckled. "I'm pretty sure Santa has excellent GPS these days." The doorbell rang and Sarah rose to answer it. Emma Fletcher stood on the porch with a thick folder under her arm, snowflakes melting in her dark hair. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," Emma said, "but I have news that couldn't wait." Over cups of hot chocolate, Emma spread documents across the kitchen table. The city council voted unanimously. The Jenkins properties have been officially seized for back taxes and code violations. "That's wonderful," Sarah said. "What happens next?" "That's why I'm here," Emma replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "The city is partnering with a non-profit housing developer. They want to convert the properties into mixed-income housing, with a community health clinic in the largest building." Michael leaned forward. "The old apartment complex on Pine Street?" Emma nodded. "Exactly. And here's the best part. They want input from the affected families. There's a planning committee forming, and they specifically asked if you would join, Michael." "Me?" Michael looked surprised. "Why me?" "Your speech at the community center made an impression. They need people who understand both the problems and the potential solutions." Emma slid a formal letter across the table. "The first meeting is next week." As Michael read the letter, his expression shifted from surprise to determination. This was a chance to ensure no other family would experience what they had endured. "I'll do it," he said firmly. Later that evening, as Lily got ready for bed, she noticed her father sitting quietly by the window, lost in thought. "Are you sad, Daddy?" she asked, climbing onto his lap in her pajamas. Michael hugged her close. "Not sad, just thinking. You know, before you got sick, I felt like I was failing you and Mom, working 2 jobs and still barely keeping up. I was too proud to ask for help." "But you weren't failing," Lily said with the simple wisdom of childhood. "You were trying really hard." "Yes, but I was trying alone. Now I understand that community means never having to solve everything by yourself." He kissed the top of her head. "You taught me that when you were brave enough to call for help." The next day, Ray arrived with a truck full of donated items for the holiday charity drive being organized at Food Mart. Michael and Lily helped him unload boxes of canned food, warm clothing, and toys. "The response has been amazing," Ray said. "Once people heard these donations would help the families from the Jenkins buildings, everyone wanted to contribute." As they worked, Officer Parker pulled up in his patrol car. His expression was unusually tense as he approached them. "Michael, Ray, I need to speak with you. Privately." While Lily continued sorting donations, the men huddled by Ray's truck. Jenkins has been spotted back in town, Parker said in a low voice. He was seen at his lawyer's office yesterday. Michael's jaw tightened. What's he doing back here? I thought he fled. Apparently, he's contesting the seizure of his properties. Claims the city acted too quickly, and that the buildings have sentimental value to his family. Ray scoffed. Sentimental value? The only thing that man values is money. Unfortunately, he has resources for good lawyers. Parker continued. There's going to be a hearing next month. The city attorney wants to know if you'd be willing to testify about the conditions in your apartment, Michael. Michael glanced toward Lily, who was carefully arranging donated toys by age group, her face alight with purpose. She had recovered physically from her ordeal, but the emotional impact lingered. She still checked the water before drinking it, and sometimes woke with nightmares about being sick and alone. I'll testify, Michael said firmly, and I bet every other family will too. What none of them noticed was that Lily had paused in her sorting. Though she couldn't hear their words, she recognized the serious expressions, the way her father's shoulders tensed, the same way they had when she was in the hospital. Something was wrong, and somehow she knew it involved the man whose negligence had made her sick. She returned to arranging toys, but her mind was racing. If trouble was coming back to Pinewood, she wanted to be ready this time. The new year arrived with a sense of anticipation in Pinewood. The community center had been transformed into a planning hub, its walls covered with architectural drawings and improvement proposals for the seized Jenkins properties. Michael had thrown himself into the committee work, attending meetings twice a week after his shifts at Food Mart. On a crisp January morning, Lily sat at the kitchen table finishing breakfast before school. Sarah was having a good day, moving about the kitchen with more energy than usual as she packed Lily's lunch. "Mom," Lily said suddenly, "is Mr. Jenkins coming back to hurt us again?" Sarah nearly dropped the sandwich she was wrapping. "What makes you ask that, sweetie?" "I heard Daddy and Mr. Ray talking before Christmas. And Daddy's been on the phone a lot, talking about the case and testimony." Lily's perceptive eyes met her mother's. "Is something bad happening?" Sarah sat down beside her daughter, choosing her words carefully. "Mr. Jenkins is trying to get his buildings back. There's going to be a court hearing where people tell the judge about what happened when they lived there. Like how the bad water made me sick?" "Yes, exactly. Daddy might have to talk about that in court." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Will I have to talk to?" "No, sweetheart. You don't have to." "But I want to," Lily interrupted with unexpected firmness. "It was me who got sick. It was me who called 911. Before Sarah could respond, Michael entered the kitchen, catching the end of Lily's declaration. "What's this about calling 911? He asked. Sarah explained Lily's request, watching concern shadow Michael's face. "Lily, the courtroom might be scary, and the lawyers might ask tough questions," he said gently. "I'm not scared," Lily insisted. "Mrs. Wilson says sometimes we have to use our voices to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." Michael and Sarah exchanged a look that contained an entire conversation: pride, worry, resignation. "I'll talk to Emma and see what's possible," Michael finally promised. That afternoon, as Lily's school bus pulled away, she noticed an unfamiliar car parked across from their house. A man sat inside, watching their home. Something about his presence made her uneasy, and she mentioned it to Mrs. Wilson when she got to school. By midday, the news had reached Michael at work. Lawrence Jenkins had been driving through the neighborhoods where his former tenants now lived, including past the Bennett's home on Maple Lane. Officer Parker increased patrols in the area, but legally, Jenkins had done nothing wrong. That evening, the planning committee met at the community center. The room buzzed with tension as Michael shared what had happened. "He's trying to intimidate us before the hearing," Ray said, his normally gentle voice hard with anger. Emma nodded. "It's a common tactic, unfortunately, but it could backfire on him in court." As they discussed strategies, the door opened, and Dr. Reynolds entered with several folders. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "I was compiling medical records from all the affected families." She placed the folders on the table. 12 children and 9 adults required treatment for parasitic infections and related complications. Every case is directly linked to the water contamination in Jenkins' buildings. The room fell silent as the full impact of Jenkins' negligence became clear. That's not counting the respiratory issues from black mold, she continued, or the injuries from structural problems. Michael shook his head. How did this go on for so long without anyone stopping it? Because people were afraid, a quiet voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Sarah standing there with Lily. Afraid of having nowhere to go. Afraid of not being believed. Lily stepped forward, looking smaller, yet somehow stronger among the adults. I was afraid too, but I called anyway. Emma knelt to Lily's level, and that made all the difference. As the meeting continued, Lily sat quietly drawing in a corner. When Michael checked on her later, he found she had sketched a picture of the courtroom as she imagined it. Rows of benches, a judge in black robes, and at the center a small figure at a microphone. Is that you? He asked softly. Lily nodded. I'm telling my story, so no other kids get sick. Michael felt his throat tighten with emotion. From the day she was born, he had seen his role as Lily's protector. Now he realized that sometimes protection meant making space for her courage, not shielding her from the opportunity to use it. As they drove home that night, they passed Jenkins' empty apartment buildings, their windows dark and vacant. But in their wake, a community had found its voice, and at the heart of that chorus was the clear, unwavering voice of a child who had dared to ask for help. The county courthouse stood imposingly at the center of Pinewood, its red brick facade and white columns lending a solemn dignity to the proceedings within. The hearing for the Jenkins properties was scheduled for 9 a.m., and by 8:30 the benches in courtroom 3 were already filling with families, reporters, and concerned citizens. Lily sat between her parents, wearing her nicest dress with a blue ribbon in her hair. She fidgeted with the small card in her pocket, notes she had written with Mrs. Wilson's help, though Emma had assured her she only needed to speak from the heart. Nervous? Sarah asked, smoothing Lily's hair. Lily nodded. A little, but Mrs. Wilson says butterflies in your tummy just mean you care about something important. Michael squeezed her hand. Remember, you don't have to do this. The judge would understand if you changed your mind. I won't change my mind, Lily said firmly. At the front of the courtroom, Emma conferred with the city attorney, a serious woman named Patricia Landry. Across the aisle, Lawrence Jenkins sat with his legal team, studiously avoiding eye contact with his former tenants. The bailiff called the court to order as Judge Eleanor Martinez took her seat. The proceedings began with formal statements, legal terms flowing back and forth that Lily couldn't fully understand. She watched Jenkins carefully. He looked smaller somehow than she had imagined, his expensive suit hanging slightly loose on his frame, dark circles under his eyes. Ms. Landry presented the city's case first, methodically outlining the code violations, the pattern of neglect, and the resulting health crises. Dr. Reynolds testified about the medical consequences, her calm professionalism giving weight to each word. The parasitic infections we treated were directly linked to sewage contamination in the water supply, she explained. In the most severe case, a child developed intestinal blockage requiring emergency medical intervention. Lily knew Dr. Reynolds was talking about her, though her name wasn't mentioned. She sat up straighter, suddenly aware of how far she had come since those frightening days. Then it was Michael's turn. He spoke clearly about their living conditions, the repeated requests for repairs, and the devastating impact on his family. I worked 2 jobs trying to provide for my family, he said, his voice steady. I thought I was doing everything right, but I couldn't protect my daughter from something I couldn't see, contaminated water that Mr. Jenkins knew about and ignored. Jenkins's attorney cross-examined Michael, suggesting the Bennetts could have moved if conditions were so bad. Where? Michael countered. The waiting list for affordable housing in Pinewood is 18 months long, and moving costs money we didn't have because every spare dollar went to my wife's medical bills. As the morning wore on, more families shared similar stories. The pattern was undeniable. Jenkins had systematically neglected properties while continuing to collect rent, prioritizing profit over human safety. Just before the lunch recess, Ms. Landry addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we have one more witness. Lily Bennett is 8 years old and was the most severely affected by the conditions in Mr. Jenkins's property. She is asked to speak briefly." Judge Martinez looked at Lily with kind eyes. "Are you sure you want to testify, young lady? You don't have to." Lily stood, her legs trembling slightly. "I'm sure, Your Honor." As she made her way to the witness stand, the courtroom fell silent. She seemed impossibly small in the large wooden chair, her feet barely touching the floor. The bailiff had to adjust the microphone down to her level. "Lily," Ms. Landry began gently, "can you tell the court what happened when you got sick?" Lily took a deep breath and began to speak. Her clear voice carried throughout the courtroom as she described her symptoms, the pain, and how scared she had been. She explained why she had called 911, believing her stepfather and his friend had somehow caused her illness. "I was wrong about Daddy and Mr. Ray," she said, "but I was right that something bad was happening. The water in our home was making me sick and nobody was fixing it." She looked directly at Jenkins for the first time. There was no anger in her gaze, only a child's honest assessment. "Mr. Jenkins, why didn't you fix our water when Daddy asked? Didn't you know it would make people sick?" The directness of her question hung in the air. Jenkins looked away, unable to meet her eyes. As Lily returned to her seat, she passed Ray, who gave her a subtle thumbs up. The judge called for a recess, but the impact of Lily's testimony remained in the room. Simple truth spoken without artifice, a reminder of what was really at stake. Spring arrived in Pinewood with a riot of color. Cherry blossoms lined Maple Lane, and daffodils nodded in the gentle breeze outside the Bennett home. In the backyard garden, Lily knelt beside Sarah, carefully planting tomato seedlings in the rich soil. "Gentle with the roots," Sarah instructed, her hands steady as she demonstrated. "Just like Mr. Ray taught us." 6 months had passed since the courthouse hearing. Judge Martinez had ruled decisively against Lawrence Jenkins, upholding the city's seizure of his properties and ordering additional penalties that would fund community health initiatives. The news had spread through Pinewood like wildfire, and the town had gathered at the community center that evening in a spontaneous celebration. For Lily, the most memorable moment hadn't been the judge's ruling, but what happened afterward in the courthouse hallway. Jenkins had approached her family, his lawyer hovering nervously at his side. "I want to apologize," he had said, his voice barely audible. "Especially to you, young lady. I never meant for anyone to get hurt." Lily had studied him for a long moment before responding. "You can't just say sorry. You have to fix what you broke." Her words had stayed with Jenkins. 2 weeks later, he had surrendered his remaining properties to the city and left Pinewood for good. The local paper ran the story with the headline, "Child's Courage Changes Pinewood Forever." Now, as Lily patted soil around the last seedling, a car pulled into their driveway. Ray emerged with a small tree sapling in a pot. "Special delivery," he called. "A cherry tree for the Bennett garden." Michael joined them, wiping his hands on a towel. He had spent the morning fixing a neighbor's leaky faucet. His newfound skills as an amateur plumber were in high demand throughout the neighborhood. "What's the occasion?" he asked, admiring the sapling. Ray beamed. "The planning committee approved the final designs today. Construction starts next month on the new community housing." Sarah clasped her hands together. "That's wonderful news." "And," Ray continued, "the health clinic will be named after Lily." Lily's eyes widened. "After me? Why?" "Because sometimes it takes a child to remind adults what matters most," Emma said, appearing from around the corner of the house. She held an official-looking document. "The Bennett Family Wellness Center will serve anyone in need, regardless of their ability to pay." As they gathered to plant the cherry tree in a sunny corner of the yard, more cars arrived. Dr. Reynolds, Officer Parker, Mrs. Wilson, and dozens of community members joined them, many bringing plants or garden tools. "We thought we'd make it a community planting day," Mrs. Wilson explained, "to celebrate new beginnings." While the adults prepared the ground for the tree, Lily slipped away to the kitchen and returned with the telephone. She dialed a number she had memorized months ago. 911. "What's your emergency?" A familiar voice answered. "Ms. Williams? This is Lily Bennett. I called you once when I was really sick." There was a pause. "Of course I remember you, Lily. Are you all right?" "I'm fine now," Lily assured her. "I just wanted to thank you for listening to me that day, and to tell you that we're planting a cherry tree in our garden today because good things came from that call." Vanessa Williams, who had answered thousands of emergency calls in her career, felt tears prick her eyes. "That might be the nicest call I've ever received, Lily." Outside, the community worked together, laughing and sharing stories as they planted flowers along the fence and helped Ray position the cherry tree in its new home. Michael stood back for a moment, taking in the scene. His wife smiling in the sunshine, his daughter confidently showing younger children how to water the new plants, their home filled with friends who had become family. He remembered the desperate man he had been, working 2 jobs and still drowning, too proud to ask for help. That man could never have imagined this moment.